Hi, everyone.
Hi.
We've cut off his head. I'll see if I can fix that.
Good job.
There. There. His head's in the frame.
Yay.
I'm slouching today because I have a fuzzy jelly bean. Where's her head? There's her head.
How can you tell the head end from the back end? Just all fluffy.
Anywho, we didn't quite know what to talk about today, but figured we'd talk about something we've been watching.
For the third time. Man, that's reflective.
I know. Is the inside less shiny?
Yes, the inside boxes are much less shiny.
There you go. Downton Abbey. I started watching it on a tablet while he was playing something, and then he started getting invested in it. So then we started it from the beginning with him and watched the whole thing. And
Yeah, the core concept sounded terrible to me, so I was just playing Star Wars Battlefront, and then there was like extremely dramatically awesome plots going on behind me, so I just gradually moved closer and closer to the computer she was watching it on, and then it was like, yeah, I should just watch this.
So I adore this show. It's about the the Crawley family.
A noble house in Britain
Yes.
during the 1912s to 1924s.
They film at a real place. It's called Highclere Castle, I think. But the name is for the show is Downton. And yes, it's the home of Lord and Lady Grantham and their children, and all the drama being a noble brings, like needing a new heir because they had no sons.
It's partially about the family, but it's also a lot about the servants in the downstairs that they either see a lot of or not very much of, depending on their station in life.
Yes. It's kind of Game of Thronesy, where it like breaks off into multiple stories and they start covering things, but I feel like they do a better job of covering everything. That could just be my opinion.
Yeah, there's a lot of plots going on, but every character is fully fleshed out and developed. There's probably 2 or 3 people who are so insanely evil you can't really understand where they're coming from. And there's a few people who eventually get better. Like, there's a few people you start the series off with and they're absolute tool bags, and by the time it's done, they've learned their life lessons and are much kinder to everyone.
Would you happen to be talking about the Mr. Barrow?
Never.
Never. Some of the main cast, I don't know the actors' names, so we're just going to go with the character names. On the upstairs, you have Lord and Lady Grantham. You have their 3 daughters, Mary, Edith, and Sybil. And that's kind of where it starts with. And then they have their granny, who's Dowager Countess Violet.
Played by Maggie Smith, probably the only actress we remember.
Well, I remember some of their names. Like, Rose Leslie is in the first season. She plays one of the maids, Gwen, and I know her from Game of Thrones because she played Ygritte. I think she was also in The Last Witch Hunter. I think she was a witch.
Probably.
Yeah, anywho. So that's the upstairs. The downstairs, you have the butler Carson, the head house. I don't really know what her title is, Mrs. Hughes.
She's the housekeeper.
Housekeeper, there you go. She's in charge of the maids. Then you have Mrs. O'Brien, who is the head lady's maid to the Lady Grantham. And there's just a whole bunch of other under people. It gets confusing for after a while.
Yes, each lady has a lady's maid if they're married. If they're not married, they're taken care of by
A housemaid.
Yes. And then there's personal valets for the men of the house, like Lord Grantham, and eventually they have 1 or 2 other male relatives that come to live with them, and they have their own valets.
Yep, and they have a chauffeur, and they have a cook, and an assistant cook, and house cooks.
And there's 2 footmen who are basically very, very, very glorified waiters. They serve all the food to the family for dinner and breakfast and such.
They do other than that. They carry luggage,
Yes.
they move things, but their big to do is serving. You learn a lot about the customs of the Edwardian rich, since we bickered about it, but it technically takes place in the Edwardian era, which is the early 1900s.
It's like everything's just very left over from the Victorian era.
Yes.
So the older people in the show, like Carson the butler and Lord Grantham, they don't want anything to change. They want it to be like it was when they were young. And the story begins with the Titanic sinking, and right after that is World War One, and there's lots of brouhaha over who the male heir should be / is.
Yes, season 1 ends with the beginning of World War One. Season 2 is consumed by World War One, and then it just follows each tragedy and thing. At some point, there's the Teapot Dome scandal in America about oil digging, which we looked up was a real thing.
Yep.
And like they find real life events and then put it in. It's written by someone who used to go to Highclere Castle, and they would find old journals and diaries of people who work there and based a story off those.
And the story seems very American to me, in that the way that we are now is we're on top of the world, like the economy, the military, the standards of living, everything is the best for us. But back in the 1912s, 20s, Britain, the British Empire, was the biggest thing in the world, militarily, economically. The feeling of the people being proud. And after World War One, it's kind of a shock to their system that things could go so wrong when they thought that they were so great. And their economy starts, it's like, not necessarily collapsing, but all the lords feel the press of all the new taxes to rebuild after the war, and all the displaced poor and refugees and such.
If you're still awake after all that.
Ah.
It also covers women's rights. They cover the women earning the right to vote and what standards are set on that. So you have to be a landowner or over 30. It covers women wanting to go to work, and it covers the fact that women couldn't inherit, and that was still only a recent change that women could inherit. And they cover a lot of things like that. And there is a gay character, back when you could be, beaten for that.
You could actually be sentenced to death for that.
Well, I think you have to get caught for that.
Yes, if you refused medical intervention, with quotations around medical, then you could be either jailed for life or hung.
But it is a very dense show. There is a lot in it, and each episode is about 50 minutes. Which, well, yes and no. The first episode is long, and then every season after the first one has a Christmas episode, and that's also long. It's like an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's definitely a great, huge time sink, but it is really, really good. And there's a few other series like Upstairs, Downstairs, the original and the remake, which...
It's not a remake. It's a sequel.
I know. It's more... Yes, continuation. Anywho, those aren't as good as Downton Abbey.
Well, okay, I like the newer Upstairs, Downstairs, to be honest.
It's like, it's good, but it's not as good as
No, it's not as good as Downton, but it also continues the story. Because this ends in 1925, I think.
Yeah, so everything is on the upswing, and a stock market is totally never going to crash ever.
Whereas Upstairs, Downstairs, the continuation starts off with the bubbling of World War II, and it ends with the beginning of that. So I think they link together pretty well. And then we have the... it's not the collector set I wanted, but it is a nice big set.
Yeah, it's got all 6 seasons on high definition Blu-ray with nice sound.
And it has a lot of behind the scenes that I don't really sit through behind the scenes, but I did for this. Because it covered all the etiquette, like chairs having to be so many inches out from the table, and silverware needing to be at a certain height, and the ladies needing to wear gloves at certain times, and what they would wear, and how they tried to get the clothes from the time period. So a lot of the people were running around in clothes from 1910, and they smelled awful.
The collector's edition I denied her was a DVD only set, which came with a Downton Abbey bell.
It came with the bell.
And if you watch this show, bells will come up a lot.
Anywho, yeah. Is there more to talk about? There are tons of characters to talk about, but that's a long video.
It's like, I think this might be free on Netflix and Amazon Prime.
Netflix, no. Amazon, it might still be. And if it isn't, it will be on... They have a British... Not Acorn. They have another British one now, like Masterpiece Channel, which is where Home Fires is.
Yeah. Well, the matter is, this is a PBS BBC series release from Masterpiece Carnival. And...
He's reading the box now.
It was worth the money for it. Because it's really good.
Yes, we originally watched it on Amazon Prime. So if you have Prime, check it out. The only note I would say is, depending on what your TV looks like, when we were watching it on Amazon, everything was fine. You don't notice anything. But then we switched to a DVD because we lost internet. The colors are different. So on the TV or through Amazon, it looks like they're all wearing like black vests and stuff, but they're really a like forest green. It's weird.
Ultra HD streaming is still not as good as actually having a Blu-ray.
No, but it's simpler.
Until the internet gets crappy.
Anywho, anything else you would like to complain about?
Like when someone will upload this video.
Our internet's so bad when I upload videos, the internet crashes. So then I have to go to data, which takes forever.
Yeah.
Yep. But good thing we have this on Blu-ray, so it won't matter.
Otherwise, we're gonna get into like season 5 of Downton Abbey.
I thought we were on season 6.
Nope. Let's find out. Zoop. Yep, you're right in the middle of season 5. So much more.
Yay. I was worried we'd be done soon.
All of them have like little pretty pictures of the peoples. So, good set.
Yes, if you don't mind very British things. His friend hates it. But if you don't mind very British things, I would highly recommend it. It's very well done. There's very little like violence or vulgarity to it because it's all about high society.
Yes, and being the history insano buffs that we are, we really enjoy a good historical thing.
Did you just call me insane?
Yes, we enjoyed this and Hetalia.
Well, Hetalia is not historical, so don't listen to him.
It's a good range.
Well, I think we'll call that a day. And he's going to go make me some popcorn. I will see you next time. Bye everyone.